Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making this fun, easy Valentine's Day pocket pillow. I'm going to be using some Wool and the Gang 100% wool yarn, but you can use any chunky yarn that you like. This project is definitely beginner friendly. It's very easy and it's an amigurumi style shape, but we are going to stuff it and make it into a pretty large heart-shaped pillow. So going ahead and getting started, I'm going to be using Wool and the Gang Crazy Sexy Wool, and this is the Cameo Rose colorway. I'm going to be using about 1.5 skeins. You don't need 2 entire skeins, but you will need more than just one. And the corresponding hook size recommended is a 12mm, but I'm going to be using an N or P 10mm hook. So even though it's recommending a 12mm, I'm going to do a slightly smaller hook so that I don't have very large gaps between my stitches for that stuffing to poke through. This is my first time working with Wool and the Gang yarn, and I really loved it. It's very soft for being 100% wool. Most of the wool that you get from a big box store is going to be kind of scratchy, but that was not my experience with this wool, and I love that it's a natural fiber. It's much more delicate to work with. You have to be a little bit more careful so that you don't kind of unravel things and pull things apart because it's just kind of felted together wool fibers, but it's definitely much softer than anything else I've worked with in the past. So getting started, we're going to start with a slip knot. This yarn doesn't look as chunky when it's on the skein, but when you are working with it, you definitely have to treat it like a bulky yarn. It's much bulkier than I expected it to be. So start with a magic ring. If you need any help with a magic ring, I do have a tutorial on my channel under my Crochet Beginner series. Once we have a magic ring, you're going to chain up 1. And then inside the ring, we're going to work 6 single crochets. So remember, single crochet is just insert your hook into the loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both loops on your hook. Again, if you need any help with any of the basic stitches, consult my Crochet Beginner Series playlist over on my main channel page. Once we have 6 single crochets, we can go ahead and tighten up that tail from our magic ring. Make sure that your tail is long enough to weave back in later. We don't want a tail that's coming unraveled. So go ahead and pull on that tail and cinch up the ring. We're going to be working in a spiral or in a continuous round. We're not going to be joining our rounds. So once this is nice and tight, we're going to just go ahead and work right into the next stitch, which was the first stitch from round 1. So beginning round 2, we're not going to slip stitch or do anything to join here. We're just going to keep on working. So for round 2, we're going to work 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So we can see here I've worked 1 single crochet and then I'm going right back into the same stitch. And I'm going to repeat that all the way around. So here's 1 single crochet, and then in the very same stitch I'm going to work a second one. Using the smaller hook here, smaller than what is recommended for your yarn, is going to create pretty tight stitches. They should be fairly workable still. You shouldn't have any really tight stitches that you can't get your hook into, but the stitches will be a bit tighter than you might normally see. So make sure your tension is not too tight, because if you have tight tension on top of using this smaller hook, it will make things more difficult moving forward. So once we finish round 2, we should have 12 stitches. Since we're not joining our rounds, you definitely want to count your stitches and make sure that you have the correct number for each round so that you're not placing any extra stitches. So now we have 12. We've finished round 2. We're going to go ahead and start with round 3. And for round 3, we're going to work 2 single crochets in the very first stitch. So here's 1 single crochet, and then in the same stitch work a second single crochet, and then in the following stitch just work 1 single crochet. So we can see here I have 2 in the same stitch and then 1 in the next, and we're going to repeat that all the way around. So 2 and then 1, and just continue all the way around. 2 1 2 1 2 1, and this is all single crochet here. So we're just going to keep continuing this, and I will meet you at the end of round 3. So here we are working our last stitch of round 3. We now have 18 stitches in round 3, alternating 2 single crochets and 1 single crochet all the way around. This is how we should be looking. Now moving on to round 4, we're going to do another increasing round. So we'll start with 2 single crochets in the first stitch, just as we did with round 3. So there is 1 single crochet and then a second one going in the same stitch, and then we're going to work 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 single crochet and then 1 more single crochet in the next. And we're just going to repeat that all the way around. Your circle should be lying pretty flat at this point. It shouldn't really be puckering up. Continuing 2 single crochets and then 1 single crochet in each of the next 2. This is our last increasing round. So from this point on, we're going to be kind of rounding out this first bump of the heart. The piece that we're working right now are the 2 bumps that form the top of the heart. So moving forward, we're going to be working 1 single crochet in each of the next stitches all the way around. And this is row 5 we're beginning here. For rows 5 through 8, we're just going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch around, and that's 24 stitches in each round. To follow along with the written pattern, please head over to the link in the description box below that will send you right along to my blog where the written pattern is. You'll definitely need to follow along with that as we go. You can see here that I have 1 single crochet in each stitch. Go ahead and continue that around for rows 5 through 8, so 4 more rounds of 1 single crochet in each, and I will meet back up with you when we've done the next 4 rounds and have finished up. Now what this is going to do once we're done with round 8 is this is going to form the first bump of the heart. So when you're looking at your heart pillow, those 2 bumps that are on top, we're forming them separately. So this is the first one. When you finish with this one, after round 8, you're going to want to break off your yarn, and I will show you that here in just a moment. You're going to want to break off your yarn, finish it off, and then start the second bump. So if you need to rewind this video after you finish round 8 on your first bump, finish it off, and then come to the beginning of this video and start on your second bump again, just to make sure you're doing everything correctly and they wind up evenly. That is definitely recommended. So once you finish this first bump, just go ahead and rewind, start your second bump, and I will catch up with you when both bumps are done. So now that I've sped along up and finished the second bump, you can see here the first bump is on the right where I've finished off the yarn. You can see here that I've cut the yarn, I've finished it off. They have even shape and form. These last 4 rows of single crochet make what was a flat circle turn into like half spherical shape. And you can see here my second bump is still attached to my working yarn. Same shape, same size. If you come out with different sizes, you probably skipped a stitch somewhere or missed a round. You definitely want these to be even so that your heart looks symmetrical. So now that we have both bumps nice and finished, we are going to join the bumps and then start working the body of the heart. So if you're following along with that written pattern, we're going to move on with our joining section, and then you can see here where I finished off the first bump. The second bump is still attached to my working yarn. You need to keep that attached, don't break the yarn, but go ahead and weave in your ends from the first bump before you move on to join. So now here I have my ends weaved on the first bump. It is totally finished and ready to go. You can see here where my last stitch was. Now you need to identify that next stitch in the round. So look at where you finished off, and then that next stitch in the round is where we're going to be working with our working yarn that is still attached to the second bump. So with that working yarn and your hook in the last stitch from the second bump, work in the very next stitch of the first bump, and hopefully the visual here is helping a bit more than the description is. It's hard to describe if you're not looking visually at the piece. So now we've single crocheted in the next stitch. So we can see here that now these bumps are joined, and we're going to just work all the way around the this is the first bump that we made, the one that was finished off. So we're just going to single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So you should have 24 stitches all the way around this piece, and you should have 24 stitches once you get back to the other side of this first bump. So the initial join, this first round of joining stitches, is really just a matter of bringing the bumps together, and then they will really start to hold and form the heart shape as we move forward with the body of the heart. So don't worry if it's not looking like a heart pillow at this particular point and it looks a bit more like a bra, to be honest with you, than anything. I know that these shapes are kind of funny until just about the end, but don't let that stop you. Don't worry about how it looks right now and how it's not really holding a shape and doesn't look like you've joined anything together. You're on the right track and everything will shape up really nicely here in just a moment. So once you have 24 stitches all the way around, you come back to where the first bump or the second bump is joined. So what we're going to do is we're going to identify this next stitch from the one that we were working with. So the very next stitch is right there. Make sure you're not skipping any stitches or you're not working in the same stitch as where your working yarn was when we started this. You should have a little gap here in between from where you joined that working yarn to the finished first bump. You should have a little gap, and we're going to work all the way around this second bump, and you should have 24 stitches here as well. So technically in the joining round, which is this round we're working on right now, round 9, you should have about 48 stitches is where we should be looking right here. So make sure that you're counting, make sure that you're stitching in every single stitch all the way around, and you should wind up with 48. And once we get back around, once again, just like with the individual bumps for the body of the heart and the rest of this project, we're not going to be slip stitching to join. We're not going to be joining our rounds as you would with a lot of circular shapes. In amigurumi in general, you don't usually join your rounds because you don't want seams on your projects, so we're not going to be joining at all, which means that it's very important that you count your stitches and follow my stitch counts. You can find those again on the written pattern on my blog in the link below, and I will be letting you know what those are for the pieces that we're going over. I'm going to skip ahead here in just a few moments after we get going on the body of the heart, so make sure you're following that written pattern so that I don't lose you with any of this. So now we've finished round 9, the joining round. There is our last stitch. So things are nice and joined. It's forming a bit more of the top of a heart look. We need to weave in that end later from our magic ring. But you can see here that these two round shapes are now held together nicely and are forming the top of our heart. And this gap again is here. We're going to finish that up later on. We're going to weave that together, but don't worry about it for now. We will come back and fix that piece. So now moving on to round 10, beginning the body of the heart, we are just going to be working in this round that's kind of a figure 8 shape. So just because it's not a nice, even, perfect circle, it's kind of this in and out oblong shape, that is still one round. So it may trick you up and you may get confused because it looks like it could be 2 separate rounds for the 2 separate bumps, but I assure you it is one round of 48 stitches at this point, and with all of the rows moving forward, you're just going to work in that one round. It's just kind of got an odd shape here at the beginning. So for round 10, we're going to single crochet in the next 11 stitches. So go ahead and single crochet in the next 11. All of these rounds moving forward are going to be decreases, so there's going to be some single crochet decreases coming up, and I will show you how I do those here after we make our 11 single crochets. Decreasing is really easy. You just have to make sure again to count your stitches. I can't harp on that enough. It's very, very important that you count in this project, otherwise your shape will be very lopsided and it won't come out looking like a nice, even, pretty heart. So here we have 11 single crochets. We're going to single crochet decrease. Here I am counting and double checking myself. So there is number 11. So for the decrease, you should be kind of at the edge of your heart. You should be on the side here. And And what we're going to do is we're going to insert our hook into just the front loops. This is called an invisible single crochet decrease. So into both of those loops and then yarn over, pull through all 3. And you can see here that it's kind of hidden. It tricks the eye, and you almost can't find a single crochet decrease when you do it in the invisible style. And then we're going to make 22 single crochets coming all the way around and to the other side of that other bump. So most of our decreases are going to be along the sides here in the beginning, but they will shift, so don't worry about your counts, worry that your counts are wrong if your decreases are not always right there on the edges, because it may not always be that way. Some of these rounds the decreases are in other spots, so make sure you just follow the counts in the pattern moving forward. So here I am working across the other side. This is what will be the back. I'm working my 22 single crochets, and then I'm going to decrease again, and I'll show you that one more time here in a moment. So here we are, we've made 22 single crochets. We're going to single crochet decrease. One more time here on the other side. Again, that's insert your hook into the front loop. Make sure you're counting your stitches. I'm just going to count one more time before I do my decrease. So I need one more. Always make sure to double check. So just in those front loops there, and work a decrease. There are lots of great videos on YouTube for invisible single crochet decrease. I don't currently have one on my channel, but I will definitely upload one if you guys need it. Just leave me a comment below if you're having trouble finding a good video or if you're not sure about this technique. And I will definitely make an invisible single crochet decrease video for you if you guys need it. Now I'm just single crocheting in the next 11 all the way back around the other bump here. I should always wind up at the ends of my rounds of the body of the heart in the center of the heart, although as we go around, because we're not slip stitching to join, our center stitch will move. So as we work down the body of the heart, don't worry if where you're ending every row shifts a little bit over every time. So for now I'm winding up back in the center. I'm going to continue with round 11, and I'm just going to continue with all of these rounds up through about round 21, I believe. 21, 22 is where I'll catch back up with you. Make sure you're following along with the written pattern. It's very easy to follow, and make sure you leave a comment below if there's any of the rounds that you get tripped up on or you're having any trouble. I try to check my comments every morning and get back to you guys as quickly as I can, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and skip along to the end of this pattern. I'm going to just work the rest of the body of this pillow. And I'm going to catch back up with you and show you how I work the embellishments and how I finish off this project, because those are definitely the parts that most people get tripped up on, but following these rounds of the body of the heart are pretty easy, especially once you see how I've done the first couple here. So just go ahead and finish up. So here we are at the end. I've finished round 23, the last round, and I've finished off my yarn. Now I have my large eye tapestry needle, and I am sewing up the bottom. So the best way I can describe this to you is that we are kind of coming in and out of 2 stitches at a time, just the front loops or the loops on the outside of this little ring that we've created, and you're coming down and through the center of one stitch and out the left side or the outside, down and through, and then without lifting your needle out of the stitch, you're going to come down and through the next stitch in the same way. So if you need to watch this a few times, go right ahead. I do have video footage here of me completing the whole circle. This is the best method that I have found of sewing up your amigurumi, any circular amigurumi, this is the best technique. It kind of creates what looks like a magic ring on the bottom of your work. The magic ring on the top creates a perfect cinched circle on top, and this is the best way to sew up the bottom to create another perfectly cinched circle. So here I've gone all the way around. You can see it kind of tightening up on its own and looking really nice. Now you just want to pull that yarn and it's going to cinch it up, and you're just going to come down and through the last couple of stitches, again working from the center of the stitch out away from the circle that you're working, and then you can just go ahead and weave in this end. So I'm going to weave it through a few different stitches and then down through the center. We can see how perfectly this cinches up the bottom. No stuffing is going to be getting out of that, and it's almost impossible for it to come undone. It's the perfect. Now moving on with the last couple of things that we need to do for our pillow. We need to sew up this gap here on top, and how I'm going to do that is I'm just going to cut a spare piece of yarn, maybe about 12 or 18 inches long, use my large eye tapestry needle, and I'm just going to sew that gap closed. You can see here that I actually did this step before I cinched up the bottom of my pillow, but you can wait until the end to do this. You're going to weave in both ends of your strip here, so you don't need to do it before you finish up your pillow. I was just a bit all over the place when finishing this project. Forgive me for my disorganization. So here I'm just tucking in that knotted end. I have the knot nice and hidden, and I'm just going to whip stitch this top of the pillow up. So I'm just going to come down and through the stitches on either side on the bumps, and I'm just going to whip stitch this up tightly. You want to pull tight because the way that you sew this up is going to determine how the heart really is shaped, because the bumps here, when you've stuffed your pillow with polyfill stuffing, just plain old polyfill, once you've stuffed it, and especially you've stuffed the body of the pillow, it's going to pull these hearts apart. And you can see that when you tie up or whip up this gap very tightly, it's going to pull those bumps back together and create a nice, tight, perfectly looking heart. You don't want a messy, lopsided, loose top to your heart up here. So when you are whip stitching this, make sure you're pulling that yarn tight, and then you weave in your ends really securely so that there is no coming apart and this gap won't show. So go ahead and weave your ends right back in over the gap as well to kind of hide your whip stitches, and then finish weaving in your ends. Now moving on from that, the last part of this project is to add the pocket. You can leave your project just like this if you like, but I wanted to add a cute little heart pocket for love letters for Valentine's Day. I've just created a medium-sized heart from my video on creating 3 different size simple hearts on my YouTube channel. I will have the link to that video right here. So just click right here, and I have created the medium size. Follow that video's description for a medium size heart, and that is what I've created again with my NP hook and my Wool in the Gang Crazy Sexy Wool. Now you can see that I'm just sewing this heart on. So I have created the medium sized heart, finished it off with a really long tail for sewing, and now I'm sewing it onto the front of my pillow. Now I'm only sewing down around these bottom edges. I'm not going to sew around the top. I'm just going to hide the yarn inside the pillow instead of stitching the top down as well, and that's what's going to create the pocket shape. If I sewed the top down, it would just be an embellished heart applique, but that's not what I want. I want a pocket that actually works. So I've gone down and through the inside of the pillow and come back up where the heart should lie. Now this placing isn't exactly right. Make sure that your placing is exactly where you want it. You may need to adjust where you're coming up and out of the pillow, so I needed to move over one more stitch in order for things to lie right and be nice and even. And then just come up through the back of the heart. I'm just stitching around the outside stitches here, and I just need to stitch down back to the center point of the heart. And just come up and down through this last round of stitching. If you'd like to, you could make the large size heart in that tutorial that was linked just a moment ago, and your heart pocket would be a lot bigger. I liked this kind of smaller little tiny love note size heart for my pocket, but there's definitely some flexibility here within this pattern, and you can customize it any way you like. I also chose to just use the same color yarn because that's what I had on hand, and I wanted to use up a little bit more of that second skein of Crazy Sexy Wool and make good use of it. But if you wanted to use a contrasting color for your pocket, that would be a really cute addition as well. So once we've sewed down just the bottom of this heart, we can see here that the top has created a pocket. You can reach all the way down to the bottom of the heart in it, and you could hide a pretty good size note or even a small gift if you wanted to surprise someone with a little gift on the pillow on the couch. Just weave in that end from your pocket and you are all done and good to go, ready to put this pillow on the couch for Valentine's Day or even give it as a gift. The pocket is perfect size for a little envelope, small gift, or love note. I'm going to be using my pillow as a love note pillow, and we can use it year round. It's perfect for Valentine's Day, but it's also a great addition to the couch or your favorite chair for any time of year, and tucking a sweet little note to your family, your kids, or giving this pillow as a gift would be a great idea as well, with a note or a gift included in the pillow. I hope you guys enjoyed this fun, easy Valentine's Day crochet tutorial. Make sure that you thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it, leave me a comment, and subscribe to my channel for more free crochet patterns.